it's really great to meet you after many many years of watching you as a player and then as a coach. I was just telling Kelly, my daughter was a D1 outside hitter, and I just got lucky to get a daughter that was a 6 foot, really strong, hit for power, but played all the way around and played here in LA, my home away from home, American Sports Center in Anaheim. Pack
Yep,
your lunch.
that's where
And
I
so
am right now.
I'm grateful for that. But other beyond that, secondarily, my brother-in-law of 35 years played outside hitter against you for 3 seasons at Stanford. And I said, "We'll promise John I'm going to talk to Karch." He couldn't believe it. He wants me to send pictures, but I said we won't make too many UCLA doormat jokes about Stanford. He goes, "If we had one more year, I know we could have taken him." But we had a lot of fun with that. So I'm around volleyball with my daughter and my brother-in-law, and they're doing beach down in San Diego, where they're based. He's got a couple sons that are active down there. So I've been
Nice.
in love with the game, and then admired you from afar. And here I am getting a chance to talk to you one on one. So I'd sent some questions in advance that I was thinking, kind of wanted to look back real quick, with you. This is mainly about the men's team, but it was fun to see you take the women and get to gold in Tokyo, and then get a silver in Paris, and just reflect a little bit. What did you like about that group? Do you feel like they achieved what you thought they could? Getting to the podium with the silver, and then the Italian women, I just was stunned by how solid they were, and why weren't they there, sooner with Italy's pro leagues and all that? I just can't figure out um, why it's taken that long. But can you talk a little bit about that women's team?
Sure. First of all, I apologize for being a couple of minutes late. We had a coach meeting run over, or actually practice ran a little long. So number two, thanks for taking the time and with your interest in volleyball and promoting the sport. So I appreciate that. I obviously the 2021 group had been knocking on the door, or the USA women had been hurling themselves at that door leading to a gold medal ever since 1964. And it seemed very appropriate that almost 60 years later, back in Tokyo, after 64 was where indoor volleyball was added to the Olympic program and became a permanent part of it, and where women's volleyball was the first true team sport added to the Olympics before women's basketball, before women's soccer, before any other sports. So it was ahead of its time in terms of women's sports in 1964. And a really, really special group that put it together under unusual circumstances of lockdowns all through 2020, near lockdowns in 2021, no spectators at the venue, fought through a lot of unusual conditions and put together a great tournament there and broke through and stood at the top of the podium for the first time ever. It was an incredible experience to be a part of. And then in 2022, 23, especially early 24, um, it was an unusual period where the women won no medals, finished fourth some, fourth in the World Championships, fourth in a VNL, but did not stand on the top of the podium. So the expectations, maybe some disappointment over the lead up to Paris in terms of results. The expectations were lower, disappointment was higher, and the USA women in Paris have a ton to be proud of figuring out how to put it all together, and put together a great tournament after not having standout results before that. Certainly, a special part of that was Jordan Poulter, who was the starting setter in Tokyo and helped lead the USA women to their first gold. And then uh, Jordan Poulter had an incredibly serious knee injury, pretty much destroyed everything in her knee about 18 months before that 2021 uh, Olympic Games. But it was a real benefit to her to actually no, the knee was before Paris, and so the 18 months leading up to Paris were really a challenge for her, a lot of work on her own back in the gym in Anaheim, as you said, ASC. Lots of lonely days with lots of coaches around her, but not a lot of teammates around her. And she came back just in time to help lead the team to another really strong Olympic performance and another win in the semis over a great, legendary women's program in Brazil in a much closer match than the Olympic final 3 years previous.
And do you feel like, given, all the factors like injuries, et cetera, where the girls were at, that they really left everything out there on the floor in terms of how they performed? Obviously, just getting to the podium's hard. Getting to the gold is really hard. When I look at international volleyball, how much parity, how good several of the women's teams were from Europe, et cetera, and superpowers like, Brazil. Uh, Seems like you would say they achieved or maybe even overachieved, given your setter was working with a bad wheel.
For 18 months leading up, I do think the team played. Um, you want to add up to more than the sum of your parts. And I think the team put together probably the best volleyball of the Olympic cycle in those 2 weeks. After a poor start against China, down 0-2, but came back to force that match to go to a fifth, to the tiebreaker. Didn't win it, but lots of good volleyball after that, and then just ran into a buzzsaw in the final. I don't think many Olympics have seen a dominant performance like the one the Italian women put on. They lost one set in the first match on
I
a
saw it.
Sunday morning, day
That was
one of
it.
competition, and then they did not lose a set after that. And that's really unusual. In London, Brazil, the Brazilian women who won, came out and had multiple losses. They were on the verge of elimination and came back to with an extra life. In 2016 in Rio, um, uh, the Chinese team won, and they barely got out of pool play. So Brazil finished fourth in the group. You had to finish fourth or better. The higher you finished, the better draw you got in the quarterfinals. Brazil finished fourth in their London group. China finished fourth in the group of death that we were all in Rio. Um, and we had a tough loss. The women in Tokyo in 21, and we're on the verge of finishing fourth, but then some weird things happen. So it's very often that a team struggles and then catches fire and wins the Olympics, but that was not the case with the Italian women. They just dominated from start to finish. They're still the world number one team. Teams are nipping at their heels. As best I can tell, I'm not following women's volleyball nearly as closely, but I believe they won VNL last year, and I believe they won the World Championships last year. And so those were the two big events of 2025. So they keep that going with a similar roster. And but it seems like some other teams are breathing down their necks.
Well, I appreciate going into the now you're taking me back to things I'd forgotten about Paris and that whole progression and what they were doing and what your team was doing and you just reminded me what everybody around volleyball picks up, and that's the momentum of the game. And to be down 2-0 and then to come back and push something to five is a big confidence boost when you've been on your back.
Yep. If you There was a new format in Paris For many, many Olympics, the format was two groups of six. So you could stub your toe once or twice, but win three matches and lose two matches and finish fourth in your group because you have five, every team had five pool play matches. In Rio, the men, our USA men, came out of the gate and lost two matches, but won three matches and still advanced and could have won that tournament. Now it's three groups of four. So you only get, rather than five preliminary pool play matches, you only get three. And a 3-0 loss can pretty much end your tournament right out of the gate. So when the USA women fell down 2-0, it was a very tough time and needed a very strong response. And that's when Avery Skinner and Catherine Plummer came in. We subbed them in, made some changes, and they gave us that, what we don't call people substitutes. We learned that from Jill Ellis, who coached the USA women's soccer team. They call their people who are waiting their turn, if they get a turn to come into the game, they call them game changers. And so Avery and Catherine Plummer at that instant were game changers, and they came in and changed the game significantly. And all of a sudden, we were in a much better spot, losing in five than losing in three.
Well, enough said about the women. That I really am glad. I wanted to hear your reflections, and I would like to obviously transition to the men
Yeah.
um, going into 2028. What I hope to do, Karch, is a year from now do a snapshot again with you, how the boys are doing, how they're progressing, and then one more time in 28, in the spring. So these are report card snapshots. Just it's a progression. It's a process.
Yeah.
And I would love to hear 2 years out, how you're feeling about the squad as it's currently configured and things like health, injuries. And I was just looking at some of the names, on the squad, some of the familiar names, D'Agostino, the libero, and you're outside. What do you like about, the personality of this team so far compared to all the teams you've coached?
It has been my time with the women was up. I had worked 4 years as an assistant, 12 as a head coach, and just felt like my work was done and was excited for some new challenge, new experience. And the men have been it's been a joy to make that transition, to get to know a whole new group, a whole new population of people who are good people, many of whom are husbands, some of whom are fathers. We had an informal family day in the gym yesterday. Probably had six or seven kids in the gym and a number of the wives and fiancés, and it was awesome. So great group of guys this is a really good program. Coach John Speraw before me did a great job with it. There was nothing broken with the program, but we're hungry to stand a little higher on the podium. Bronze in Paris, bronze in Rio. Both those teams, it's in my firm belief, and I think all the guys who were on those teams, that they were capable of winning those tournaments, but lost in the semifinals and couldn't compete for a gold medal. The only loss the USA men had in Paris was in the semis, 15-13 in the fifth game against Poland. And that meant the best they could finish was third, and they did exactly that. But we're hungry for more. We always are. And so that's the challenge. 2025 was a year of learning for me, learning these people, learning about them both as people and about their families, and also learning about them as players. We played a lot younger. We had a number of guys take a well-deserved rest from competition. People like Matt Anderson, TJ DeFalco, um, um, let's see, Jake Haynes, Taylor Averill, and so Aaron Russell, who is another. So TJ and Aaron are both, um, and Matt Anderson, who is now playing outside for us. That's three world-class outsides who would start for, just about any team on the planet. And so we played a lot younger, played with people like Ethan Champlin and Jordan Ewert at the outside as starters in the World Championships, and they did a really nice job for us in their first experiences like that at the World Championship level. And so part of the fun and challenge of this year is working those guys back into the equation, the guys who took a break for a whole season of 2025. And so Matt Anderson back in the fray, um, TJ DeFalco back in the fray, Jake Haynes in the fray, and we put together some nice volleyball so far, 6 wins and 2 losses on VNL. We'll depart a week from tomorrow to Chicago to play week 3. No new additions that we're looking at. The one change we could expect is for Aaron Russell to join us after VNL, after Volleyball Nations League is over for the second part of the season. But it's really exciting to get to coach for the first time people like Matt and TJ and Jake and Aaron coming up, people like that. So a fun set of puzzles to solve.
Yeah, sounds like you've got good community though, per the gathering
Yeah.
with the players and their families and some kids in the mix. You've got veterans that have come back, and so it's chemistry and trying to integrate the veterans with the young talent and everybody getting along. Whether you're a game changer or a starter, I
Yeah.
like that term. I'm going to remember that,
Yeah.
and it'll be fun to talk to you, in 12 months and see how things sounds like they're doing great where they're at right now in terms of how they're placing in
Yep.
the tournaments that they're playing in. So that bodes really well for for LA for the 2028 games. Do you think for the people that haven't been in the Olympic spotlight, maybe they're on that team because they're all Americans. They're great already, but it seems like moving to the Olympic stage, if you played in world championships, it's still a brighter set of lights when you get to the Olympics, the people I've talked to, and it can kind of unnerve you. You feel the pressure. Would you say that's been, your experience?
Um, the Olympics, the play inside the lines is just the same, but there are some things that are very different outside the lines in terms of the massive media event that it is. It's almost like a massive, ginormous media event where some sports break out also and happen. And so that can be overwhelming if we haven't talked about it and prepared for it. But every Olympic team that goes in and wins a medal almost always has people who have never played the Olympics before. And so to have a blend of experience and youth is great. That's the best way to carry on the legacy that any particular program has built, is not to be all new and not to be all veteran, but to be a mixture of both. And so that's been my experience so far in the Olympics that I've coached in. It was my experience after playing in one Olympics in 1984 and winning. Only 4 of our 12 players on the next Olympic team played in the previous Olympics. So 8 had never been to an Olympic Games, and we still won an Olympic Games. So it is certainly possible to win with a majority of Olympic rookies on an Olympic roster. and just that the torch has to be passed. And so I can see certainly some new blood, and like I said, the young guys like an Ethan Champlin knocking on the door, and not just him as an outside, but um, players in each position, younger guys. Merrick McHenry in the middle as a starter in World Championships last year, showing some great potential. So we're a nice blend of youth and experience.
Well, per my questions I sent in advance, I reflected on your decade of dominance, in the 80s, the US team winning two medals and then struggling a little bit in the 90s and bouncing back to, as you said, win some gold, win some bronze medals along the way, but not quite the level of dominance of the 80s. Is it realistic to think that anybody can dominate in men's Olympic volleyball today? And who do you think is the team to beat today, 2 years out, going into LA? Who do you guys have in the crosshairs that you're paying attention to that you think will be tough?
I do think it's very difficult to dominate, especially on the men's side. Things are there's so much power and skill on so many national teams. It's really, really difficult to dominate. Credit to France, the men have won two straight Olympic Games. Those were only 3 years apart, so they could be a more similar team than if they were 4 years apart or 5 years apart. And after that, last year's World Championships, uh, boy, I can't remember right, but there were a number of very good teams that were sent home after the preliminary round, just like in World Cup of Soccer right now, the bottom two finishers in each group of four packed up and checked out of the hotel. So some really good teams might have been Argentina, maybe France, Japan, certainly. Some others did not even earn their way out of pool play, and that's how fierce the competition is, especially on the men's side. So I don't think there's a prohibitive favorite right now, but there are some teams that have traditionally been strong. Multiple world champion Poland, for example, and current world champion Italy, even though I think Italy has yet to win an Olympic gold medal in men's volleyball. They've knocked on the door. They've won silver multiple times. So they're a real force. Two-time defending champion France. Japan's a spectacular team to watch. They're not as tall as some of the other teams, but play incredible defense and just a really dynamic game. Japan really should have been in the semis in Paris. It was an absolutely heartbreaking loss for them. They beat Italy in set one and set two, and they had a 24-21 lead in set three. They had 3 match points and couldn't finish it off, and Italy came back to beat them in five. And so Japan was unlimited. Japan was really in a great position to contend for a medal, and lost. They changed their coach as a result of that, but they're the only undefeated team on VNL right now. They're 8 wins and 0 losses. So
That
playing
is
some really
heart.
solid volleyball. They beat us 15-13 in the fifth last Saturday, 6 days ago in France. And they're playing some really high level volleyball right now, and they're a really fun team to battle against with their game versus our game, and the contrasts between them.
They've got something to prove, and it
Yeah.
it makes sense. I just wanted to finish with a couple sentimental questions because I got you, and these are questions I would ask you if we were just sitting sitting around having having a Coke, just your own personal career. This is just a question everybody I think that likes volleyball would ask you, Karch. You won at indoor, you won at beach, you won as a coach, but you were able to win at beach and indoor. And anybody that's gotten close to volleyball realizes it's really hard, harder than ever today for players to win in both those formats. Do you think anybody can do what you did? Be successful at the highest level indoor and then take it to the sand, and win a gold medal or a world championship.
I think so. First of all, the game I grew up playing, starting when I was 6 and all the way till about 14 or 15, was strictly beach volleyball. So my first 7, 8, 9 years of playing was only 2-on-2 beach volleyball. So it wasn't something I tried to pick up in my 20s or 30s. That's much more difficult to do than already having it in my veins and just getting back to that game after a couple of Olympic games on the indoor side. So I do think you have to have an early exposure to both games to be able to play at the highest level at both games. We see plenty of ex-indoor players becoming really, really good beach players. And so not only do I think it is possible for somebody to win gold indoors and on the beach, someday I'd like to see the ultimate. I think it might be possible. I don't know, but the ultimate would be to to work with the International Volleyball Federation, a little like Michael Phelps and USA Swimming worked with international swimming to schedule all his races in such a way as to maximize his chances to win the most amount of medals. And the way it could be structured at an Olympics is it would be awesome to see somebody double and play both in the same Olympics, sand one day, indoors the next, sand indoors. That would be the ultimate, and I think someday it might become possible. I would love to see somebody do that. And we're not close to it now, but who knows?
Well, Michael Phelps proved it in the pool. Who's to say
Eight
it can't
eight
happen?
golds. Yeah.
Um, on that note about your background and growing up, playing volleyball on the beach and then you know indoor and ultimately having success with sand. Um, Again, one of my volleyball friends, family members said, I think that Karch, his approach indoor is traditional. Right, you're a right-hander, you start with your right foot, but that your goofy foot on the beach when you played, you'd start with your left. Is that true?
It is true. For a number of years on the beach, I played normal footwork, and I was in a particular tournament. I was struggling to hit a particular shot, and so I started experimenting and exploring with some different answers. And the best answer I came up with was that when I hit on the left side of the court, I played most of my career, almost all of my career, as a left side player, not a right side player. And so when I played on the left, and I really only played on the left because my dad played on the right, and we played together for the first 4 or 5 years that I played. And he was a fixture on the right, so I became a left side player. But I experimented with it, and I found a goofy footed approach worked better on the left. But if I were playing because in doubles you end up hitting from anywhere. We might serve the other team's right side player, and maybe my teammate was blocking at the net, and maybe I would dig his cross court shot, and now I would find myself hitting on our right side of the court. And in that case, I hit normal footwork. So I could pick and choose which to use on any given approach. I practiced both so much that I could choose, and what worked best for me was goofy footed on the left. and non-goofy footed traditional approach on the right.
I am so glad I asked you that question. It's an even better answer than I was expecting. So you did both, depending
Yes,
upon the situation.
yes, but I attacked much more on the left because that's where I was when we received serve, when we were siding out.
Well, my last question, again, in this the sentimental vein, is you had some great partners and some pretty colorful personalities that you played with. Who was the most colorful personality in beach that you played with? Not just a great player, but just somebody that kept you on your toes, their sense of humor, whatever.
Oh, I don't know that there was one, but I got to play with really got fortunate to play with some of the all-time greats. I played early in my career with St. John Smith, who is and will always be one of the all-time greats. I got to play a ton of tournaments with him. He and I won together a lot, and then I had to step away from beach volleyball as our coach for the first Olympic Games, Doug Beal, demanded and asked and demanded that we focus strictly on a specific game, the indoor game, to try to work our way into medal contention. And I also got to play with Randy Stoklos in some King of the Beach tournaments, and also got to play with Tim Hovland in a few tournaments, and that was a real joy. He was one of my favorite competitors of all time. Always really tough to play against across the net. And there were just lots and lots of great players. Kent Steffes and I. Kent was just kind of a machine in terms of how how consistently he could play such high level volleyball. Really consistent and dependable, and an incredible player. Incredible. The most tournaments. Uh, I think I won 148 career tournaments and close to 80 with Kent, so won by far the most with him. And then right through to the later years, had a great time playing with Adam Johnson and then with some guys who carried a really nice load in terms of being a really dominant blocker at the net. Mike Lambert was a joy to play. He's just a great, great guy. And he was a convert from the Sydney indoor team and then went to the beach and became a really special player there, right on through my last partner, Kevin Wong, who was um, a, a, a sometime UCLA, USA. He was a star at UCLA, a sometime USA player, and he too was really fun to play with. So each of them were different, but blessed to play with a lot of amazing guys and amazing competitors through the course of my career.
I know every one of those names except Kevin, and some of them I hadn't thought about in a long time. And I'm so glad, again, I asked you that question. Um, I just, you're everything that's good, like a lot of coaches and players for representing our country. Um, you're somebody I'd love to have my adult son, that's the greatest compliment is when you'd be happy to let your child play for a coach for 4 years or whatever. And you've always been that kind of a role model and example. I know you want to win as much as anybody, and you've got the track record to prove it. I wish you the best of success, and I am really looking forward to Kelly helping me check in with you a year from now. It's just a pleasure and an honor to meet you, and my brother-in-law is going to be so jealous.
Oh, well, thank you for the kind words. Great to spend time with you. And thank you for your efforts on behalf of volleyball and helping promote and continue to build our sport. And have a wonderful July 4th weekend.